Metallica are an American heavy metal band formed in Los Angeles in 1981 by vocalist and guitarist James Hetfield and drummer Lars Ulrich, and they have been based in San Francisco for most of their career. The band's fast tempos, instrumentals, and aggressive musicianship made them one of the founding Big Four bands of thrash metal, alongside Megadeth, Anthrax, and Slayer. Metallica's current lineup comprises founding members and primary songwriters Hetfield and Ulrich, longtime lead guitarist Kirk Hammett, and bassist Robert Trujillo. Past band members are guitarist Dave Mustaine, who formed Megadeth after being fired from Metallica, and bassists Ron McGovney, Cliff Burton, and Jason Newsted. Metallica first found commercial success with the release of its third album, Master of Puppets, in 1986, which is cited as one of the heaviest metal albums and the band's best work. The band's next album, And Justice for All, in 1988, gave Metallica its first Grammy Award nomination. Its fifth album, Metallica, in 1991, was a turning point for the band that saw them transition from their thrash roots. It appealed to a more mainstream audience, achieving substantial commercial success and selling more than 16 million copies in the United States to date, making it the best-selling album of the SoundScan era. After experimenting with different genres and directions, Metallica returned to its thrash metal roots with its ninth album, Death Magnetic, in 2008, which drew similar praise to that of the band's earlier albums. The band's 11th and most recent album, 72 Seasons, was released in 2023. Kill 'Em All is the debut studio album by Metallica, released on July 25, 1983 through the independent label Megaforce Records. After forming in 1981, Metallica began by playing shows in local clubs in Los Angeles. They recorded several demos to gain attention from club owners and eventually relocated to San Francisco to secure the services of bassist Cliff Burton. The group's No Life Till Leather demo tape in 1982 was noticed by Megaforce label, who signed them. The album was recorded in May with producer Paul Curcio at the Music America Studios in Rochester, New York. Metallica promoted the album on the two-month co-headlining Kill 'Em All for One tour with English heavy metal band Raven in the US. The album also generated two singles, Whiplash and Jump in the Fire. Kill 'Em All was critically praised at the time of its release and has since been regarded as a groundbreaking album for thrash metal because of its precise musicianship, which fused new wave of British heavy metal riffs with hardcore punk tempos. The album's musical approach and lyrics were very different from rock's mainstream of the early 1980s and inspired a number of bands who followed in a similar manner. Ride the Lightning is the second studio album released on July 27, 1984 by the independent record label Megaforce Records. The album was recorded in 3 weeks at Sweet Silence Studios in Copenhagen, Denmark. The artwork, based on a concept by the band, depicts an electric chair being struck by lightning flowing from the band logo. The title was taken from a passage in Stephen King's novel The Stand. Although rooted in the thrash metal genre, the album showcased the band's musical growth. Bassist Cliff Burton also began to have more input in the songwriting. Beyond the fast tempos of its debut Kill 'Em All, Metallica broadened its approach by employing acoustic guitars, extended instrumentals, and more complex harmonies. It is the last album to feature songwriting contributions from former lead guitarist Dave Mustaine, who left the band to form Megadeth, and the first to feature contributions from replacement guitarist Kirk Hammett. Ride the Lightning received a highly positive response from critics. Metallica promoted the album on the Bang That Head That Doesn't Bang European tour in late 1984 and on its North American leg in the first half of 1985. The band performed at major music festivals such as Monsters of Rock and the Day on the Green Festival later that year. 2 months after its release, Elektra Records signed Metallica to a multi-year deal and reissued the album. Many rock publications have ranked Ride the Lightning on their best album lists, saying it had a lasting impact on thrash metal. Master of Puppets is the third studio album released on March 3, 1986 by Elektra Records. Recorded in Copenhagen, Denmark at Sweet Silence Studios, it is the band's final album to feature bassist Cliff Burton, who sadly died on September 27, 1986, after the band's tour bus was involved in an accident in Dorarp, Sweden, whilst on the Master of Puppets tour. The album's artwork depicts a cemetery field of white crosses tethered to strings manipulated by a pair of hands in a clouded blood-red sky with a fiery orange glow on the horizon. Instead of releasing a single or video in advance of the album's release, Metallica embarked on a 5-month American tour in support of Ozzy Osbourne. The European leg was cancelled after Burton's death in September 1986, and the band returned home to audition a new bassist. Master of Puppets peaked at number 29 on the Billboard 200 and received widespread acclaim from critics. It is widely considered to be one of the greatest and most influential metal albums of all time, and is credited with consolidating the American thrash metal scene. Master of Puppets became the first metal recording to be selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the National Recording Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. And Justice for All is the fourth studio album released on August 25, 1988 by Elektra Records. It was Metallica's first full-length studio album to feature bassist Jason Newsted, following the death of their previous bassist Cliff Burton in 1986. Burton received posthumous co-writing credit on To Live Is To Die as Newsted followed bass lines Burton had recorded prior to his death. Metallica recorded the album over 4 months in early 1988 at One-on-One Recording Studios in Los Angeles. The cover depicts Lady Justice bound in ropes, being pulled by them to the point of breaking, with dollar bills piled upon and falling off her scales. The album title is derived from the last 4 words of the American Pledge of Allegiance. 3 of its songs were released as singles: Harvester of Sorrow, Eye of the Beholder, and One. The title track, and Justice for All, was released as a promotional single. And Justice for All was acclaimed by music critics and was nominated for a Grammy Award in 1989, controversially losing out to Jethro Tull in the Best Hard Rock Metal Performance Vocal or Instrumental category. The single won back the band's debut music video and earned Metallica their first Grammy Award in 1990, and the first ever in the Best Metal Performance category. The album was reissued on November 2, 2018 in vinyl, CD and cassette formats, as well as receiving a deluxe box set treatment with bonus tracks and unreleased video footage. Metallica, commonly known as the Black Album, is the 5th studio album and was released on August 12, 1991. Recording sessions took place at One-on-One Recording Studios in Los Angeles over 8 months. The album marked a change in the band's music from the thrash metal style of their previous 4 albums to a slower, heavier and more refined sound. The band played the album in reverse order during the 2012 European Black Album tour. In 2020, the album was ranked number 235 on Rolling Stone's The 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list. It also became the second longest charting traditional title in history, only behind The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, and the second to spend 550 weeks on the album charts. Load is the 6th studio album, released on June 4, 1996 by Elektra Records in the United States and by Vertigo Records internationally. The album showed more of a hard rock side of Metallica than the band's typical thrash metal style, which, alienated much of the band's fan base. It also featured influences from genres such as southern rock, blues rock, country rock and alternative rock. Drummer Lars Ulrich said, "This album is what Metallica are all about." exploring different things. At 79 minutes, Load is Metallica's longest studio album. Load received mixed reviews but was a commercial success. 4 singles, Until It Sleeps, Hero of the Day, Mama Said, and King Nothing were released as part of the marketing campaign for the album. Reload is the 7th studio album, released on November 18, 1997. The album is a follow-up to Load, released the previous year, and Metallica's last studio album to feature bassist Jason Newsted. Reload debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. Reload was recorded at The Plant, a wood-paneled studio in Sausalito, California. The session was produced by Bob Rock, who also produced Metallica's previous 2 albums. The original idea was to release Load and Reload as a double album. However, with problems recording so many songs at one time, the band decided that half of the songs were to be released, and the band would continue to work on the remaining songs and release them the following year. It was the final Metallica studio album to feature the lineup with bassist Jason Newsted, before he left the band in January 2001, though it was not his last release with the band. St. Anger is the 8th studio album released on June 5, 2003. It was the last Metallica album released through Elektra, and the final collaboration between Metallica and longtime producer Bob Rock, with whom the band had worked since 1990. This is also Metallica's only album as an official trio, as bassist Jason Newsted left the band prior to the recording sessions. Rock played bass in Newsted's place, and Robert Trujillo joined the band following its completion. Although he does not play on the album, he is credited in the sleeve notes and appears in photos with the band in the album's booklet. Recording began in April 2001 but was postponed after rhythm guitarist and vocalist James Hetfield entered rehabilitation for alcoholism and various other addictions. It did not resume until May 2002. The recording is the subject of the 2004 documentary film Metallica, Some Kind of Monster. St. Anger left Metallica's usual style with an alternative metal style with a more metallic drum sound and no guitar solos. Death Magnetic is the 9th studio album, released on September 12, 2008, through Warner Brothers Records in the United States. The album was produced by Rick Rubin, marking the band's first album since Metallica 1991, not to be produced by longtime collaborator Bob Rock, and with James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich as co-producers. It is also the first Metallica album to feature new bassist Robert Trujillo. Metallica began writing music for a new album in 2006, later recording the album at different studios across Los Angeles County, California, from March 2007 to May 2008. Musically, Death Magnetic is a change from Metallica's previous album, St. Anger, and is considered a return to the band's thrash metal roots, with more long guitar solos from Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield. It also includes the band's first instrumental piece, Suicide and Redemption Since To Live Is To Die From and Justice For All album. Hardwired to Self-Destruct is the 10th studio album released as a double album on November 18, 2016 by the band's record label Blackened Recordings. It was Metallica's first studio album in 8 years following Death Magnetic, marking the longest gap between studio albums in the band's career, and its first studio album released through Blackened Records. Hardwired to Self-Destruct was Metallica's 6th consecutive studio album to debut at number 1 on the US Billboard 200. Metallica drummer Lars Ulrich ranked the album as the band's best yet. "72 Seasons" is the 11th studio album and was released on April 14, 2023. 72 Seasons was produced by Greg Feidelman, who produced the band's previous studio album Hardwired to Self-Destruct in 2016. The album generally received positive reviews from critics who mostly praised Hetfield's lyrics and vocal performance. In 2024, 72 Seasons received 3 nominations at the 66th Grammy Awards, winning Best Metal Performance for the title track, 72 Seasons. 72 Seasons includes Metallica's longest original song to date, Inamorata, which runs for over 11 minutes. In total, Metallica have released 11 studio albums, 4 live albums, including 2 performances with the San Francisco Symphony, and 37 singles. The band have won 10 Grammy Awards in Metallica ranks as one of the most commercially successful bands of all time. Metallica have also been listed as one of the greatest artists of all time by magazines such as Rolling Stone. As of 2017, Metallica is the 3rd best-selling music artist, since Nielsen SoundScan began tracking sales in 1991, selling 58 million albums in the United States alone. The band has sold more than 125 million records worldwide. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel and maybe check out previous discographies featuring Saxon and Led Zeppelin.